Well, hello everybody. We're here for a new season of Senza Forchetta. And in this episode, we do something we have not done before. And we have a guest. And we're going to speak about a very interesting topic. So my guest here today is Yash. He's originally from India and he's now started a startup here in Berlin. And we're going to dive a little bit into his journey, the choices and the feelings that he had that led him to make such a decision. And also, now that he's done it, how does he feel about it? But before I get too much into this, I welcome our guest, Yash, and I thank you so much for being here and putting yourself through this.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really excited about it. First time I'm doing a podcast of kinds, and it's just really nice to be here and talk about something that means a lot and also is maybe a more authentic version of myself, I think.
That's super interesting already. And do you want to just share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So yeah, I'm Yash. Like Joe said, originally from India. Been in Berlin now for about 4.5, 5 years. Basically moved to Europe for my master's originally, spent some time after that working in the startup and VC world, and lately over the last 1.5 years fulfilled my desire of founding my own company. So building this company called Anytax in the space of finance and fintech, where we're just making it easier for people to do their taxes or get their money back on their taxes.
Amazing. But here we're not going to talk about the startup. We're interested about Yash. And I first would like to ask you, when you were in your journey of life and you had this idea about founding your own company, what emotion did you have? Both that you could identify as strength, but I also would like to talk about the insecurities and the risks that you face.
Yeah, so I think the origins of the idea, to be honest, were very much there from when I was very young. I grew up in this entrepreneurial family. So I'd seen my grandparents, my parents work in their own business as well. And I think, a lot of what you want to do, and whether you realize it consciously or subconsciously, a lot of time comes from your childhood and your environment. So I think I always grew up with the notion that at some point I'm going to run something myself. Mm-hmm. So it was never a sudden realization which came to me where like, oh, I have to do this, or oh wow, this is such a big thing to do. I think it's just kind of institutionalized in you since you're a child and how you grow up. So I think...
Did you ever question that while you were growing up, this idea of I want to make something of mine?
Yeah, funnily enough, not really. I think a lot of people I know sometimes grow up in such an environment and think of it as a burden because they kind of don't want, the pressure of trying to do something yourself. Because I think for people, I think maybe men a lot in general, you kind of attach a lot of your identity to your career and your professional success. And that's just, and when you're building something yourself, that's as close to your identity as it can get. So I think for a lot of people, they don't want that pressure, and fair enough, I think. But I think for me, never did I really question if I want to do that. I think I really enjoyed the idea of building and creating something of my own and managing something of my own from my early days. So it was never really a burden. I think I questioned what I would want to do maybe at times, but I never really had that, should I actually do something myself?
Should I be a musician or should I be...
Unfortunately, was not that creatively gifted, I guess.
That's super cool. And so you spoke about this realization that was always within you, and you never really questioned. But when you think about more the thoughts that came to your mind, the emotions, what emotions did you feel? Also getting closer to this making of the startup.
Yeah, I think they evolved over time, right? I think originally I was just young, naive, and with the energy that I wanted to do something, and I had no idea how, what, when, where. But it's just I probably, enjoyed being in that position where I'm orchestrating or creating something of my own. And the emotion at that point, I think, was, I would say, gave me a lot of comfort in a way. I think one thing that's been a red line since very early on for me has been, the security I feel for myself, and the emotion I feel when I, am in charge of my own schedule and my own life and my own time. And I think being an entrepreneur comes with a whole set of demands for sure, but one thing you do have is you're in control of your own time. You're very accountable to yourself, which is also not the easiest thing to do.
Very tough.
Very tough, but you're in charge of your sort of life, and I think that always gave me some level of satisfaction early on. Whether it was the way I would prepare for an exam, it would be my own schedule, my own way of doing it, not listening to 100 people on how they did it. And I think that kind of translates in how you build a business as well, right? Like you have advice, you have people on doing it, but ultimately you kind of shape the destiny of it yourself, and you shape your life around it yourself. So that, I think, was the underlying feeling. I don't know what the exact emotion for it might be, but that feeling was really nice that I really liked.
You were very conscious and aware that that's what you wanted.
That's what I wanted. And at the core of me, I think that's where I am the best version of myself in a way. I'm not the best version of what I can be when I have people micromanaging me and telling me what to do. I'm not the best version of myself if I'm supposed to do task A 5 days a week, 9 to 5 or 9 to 9, whatever that might be. I'm the best version of myself when I have room for me to go and explore and how to solve a problem or how to build something new.
I think this is actually super interesting, because a lot of times people find themselves in jobs that they don't really enjoy and they think it's their fault.
Yeah.
But maybe they're just not in the place where they need to be.
Yeah.
And I think the way you manage this emotion into still creating something ambitious is something quite inspiring. It could be inspiring for some people. But then also, again, you don't need to open up a startup to get that. You can get it in anything you do. And
True.
If you really enjoy, I don't know, working in a supermarket because, for whatever reason, because you like sorting things and you feel like you're in your place, I think that's also perfectly awesome.
Exactly. I think, maybe this is more a little bit of a philosophical discussion, but we kind of have, benchmarked ourselves in terms of success by, our bank balance or our status in a company or whatever that might be.
Money,
yeah, exactly, right? Money is the biggest one, and some sort of corporate designation is a definition of success. Ultimately, the richest man or woman is someone who owns their entire time, right? And owns the or has the best feeling with their time, you could say, in a way. And you can derive that doing whatever you want. It could be someone who's just fishing but has complete control over their time and enjoys that. So like you said, yeah, I think there is no metric to this in a way. It's just what each person wants for themselves.
Exactly. But now I would like to get deeper into the dark side, which all of us have. And how do you manage, or how did you manage? Because as you grow and you encounter, let's call them flaws in yourself or this dark side, and even if you do great things, or you're the richest man, you still have those things. And if you want to share a little bit about this.
Yeah, so I think, you are sort of put in a place where you will probably compare yourself a fair bit to everyone around you. And that did happen. I think we're all human, we all go through this process of evaluating our own self-worth once in a while.
Which I also think it's okay, to compare yourself to others, as long as your identity, again, doesn't depend on it, but you can, take inspiration, look at what someone else is doing.
Yeah, I think it's obviously not unhealthy to compare yourself. I think, people probably don't live in their own like la la land, and then there's no connection to reality or what's happening around you. So that's obviously not extremely healthy. I think what I'd start doing, or what I tried doing, was for me everything always kind of tied to a bigger picture, and trying to sort of understand what that looked like for me, and then basing my actions a little bit based on that. I think that's the only thing that really like helped me a lot, because like I said, this entrepreneurial bug was something I always had. And I think when we did the masters, and there were all sorts of people with certain thoughts and into going into certain directions, be it consulting, be it whatever. I think the question for me always was, does this really add to what I want to be for myself 5 years later?
How did that comparison make you feel? Like when you went into that rabbit hole of comparison?
I think initially you sit in, I think you obviously realize you're not good at certain things and you're good at certain things. And I think the realization for me when I sort of started zooming out a little bit was, actually I'm running my own race. Like there's no reason to compete. The whole outlook started shifting then, when I realized, okay, actually, and there is like no superior or inferior there. You just realize you're on different rail paths, and then you need to like walk on your own, and then you just realize that, okay, I'm actually not competing with someone. Actually, they're just doing their own thing, I'm doing my own thing.
How did you realize that? How was it so clear that you don't need that constant comparison?
Yeah. Weirdly enough, I think it's kind of again a little bit stemming from school or childhood, where I was that kid, one of my teachers would say, I was that kid who wanted to do well but didn't want to sit in the first bench,
Mm-hmm.
And I would take it up as a personal point for me to do well, by not conforming to the norm of studying the most or being the most attentive or whatever. And one of my teachers would jokingly say, like, minimum input, maximum output. That's literally the way I tried functioning. Probably came from a little bit of laziness, honestly.
I am the same way. Yeah. I'm like super lazy, so I want to find the most efficient way to do something, so I don't have to stress.
I don't have to stress so much about it, and then it kind of became like a little bit of this rebellious attitude where I'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking prove that I can get to the same result by doing it my way or a different way. And then the outlook you start having very naturally is, I'm on my own path. I don't care what that path is or what the mainstream path is or what everyone else is doing. I'm just gonna like get to my version of success with just an alternative route.
Yeah. So you always try to find that balance where you look at a problem, but then you also zoom out and you look at the perspective of everything, the environment, whatever you're dealing with.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very good thing to do, actually.
True.
Can be very helpful.
And maybe sort of connecting to like that question you had around the dark side, right? Like the dark side, like I said, was probably a little bit of procrastination and laziness. And I don't think I've gotten to a point.
But don't you think that those are like laziness or procrastination? They're just symptoms of something deeper.
Possibly. I think the cause for it, I haven't gone and introspected so much to sit in right now. And to be fair, like like you said, when you're probably a little lazy or you procrastinate a little bit, you become way more efficient. So you solve things better.
And that's actually a great point, because I feel like sometimes our dark side is also our biggest strength.
Yeah.
So it's like, how there's love and hate, and they are part of the same coin. So just the two faces of the same coin. So if you're able to look at the problem and turn it somehow into a strength, like you become a master of yourself.
Absolutely. And I think personally also, like, an entrepreneurial journey is, there's no hiding in this space, because who are you really hiding from? Yourself, your co-founders. You can't hide for too long in that sense. I mean, things will just go down in front of you then, and if you are tied to it and you want to succeed, then you will have no option but to start confronting first, acknowledging, confronting, and then acting upon it. So I think now I don't have the luxury of being lazy on what I have to do. I think the demand is there, and then you just have to like go out and do it. If you don't, then you sink.
But this is actually super good what you're saying about, so now we're switching to what you're feeling. Now we talk about what drove you to make the decision to open it up, and the doubts and the strength. And now we're speaking more about the entrepreneurial journey that you're on. So also this feeling, like you said, do I confront the problem? Do I hide from it?
Yeah.
But what's that? If I hide from the problem, what's probably going to happen to the startup? Yeah. And even that, it could still fail. And it's not because of you, because of the environment, because of so many different elements that come into play. So if you take that failure as a failure of yourself, that would be, so how do you manage that? Like what is your identity in relation to any tax?
I think, being the person that I am, I've thought of building something myself, and I've always had entrepreneurial dreams. So for it to start coming into fruition is extremely exciting and is extremely motivating. And of course, it means a lot to me. I think it is something that I'm doing that I'm extremely, excited to build and extremely interested in for it to succeed. I think that being said, the person that I've been, the way that I've sort of seen myself grow over the last decade or so, I've realized that there are so many facets to me as a person. And for me, whether that is intellectual growth, emotional growth, a lot of personal growth, professional growth, it's not always been tied to my work. Like my work is a part of my identity, but isn't my identity. Like how Yash is defined by Anytax and a lot of other things. Sure, Anytax is just defined by Yash's input and Yash's co-founders' inputs, and obviously everyone else who's part of it. So Anytax depends a lot on us, but Yash does not completely depend on Anytax for his sense of validation. So I think while there is a lot of attachment and I'm extremely vested in like this doing well, I don't think I determine my sense of personal worth by its success or its failure. So if it were to like fail tomorrow, I think I would feel terrible. Of course. But I don't think I would value myself lesser as a person. And similarly, if it were to really succeed tomorrow, I think I would be very ecstatic and very happy. But at the same time, I don't think my personal representation of my worth has suddenly become something else, It's not my identity.
It's tricky though.
It's tricky, of course, because ego.
And imagine the ego feeds on this type of success. And it happens to a lot of successful people that after some time they lose it.
You're on a power trip, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's also very important, like on the both sides. So when there is a failure, that you don't become totally destroyed by that failure, but you can learn from it. But also when you succeed, that you remain humble and say, I got this far, but that doesn't mean that I am better than anybody else.
Yeah, but I think there's an interesting thing here, right? Like I think you have a certain, type or section of people who would, be very like, for them, no matter you succeed or fail, you have to be very humble, and humility in that sense translates into, not buying things that make you feel happy, or not doing things that make you, give you a little kick in a way. I don't think it's that for me. Like, if you've made money, spend the money and enjoy like what you've created. But again, like, if you make money and you buy that watch, do it because you like that watch, but don't feel like that watch suddenly increases your own self-worth. You know, that is the key for me. Like, self-worth is independent of financial status or capitalistic success. But if you have capitalistic success, there's no reason not to enjoy what it brings you.
Exactly.
As long as you don't attach it to your identity, and that sort of shapes you in a way. I think that's sort of the key difference for me.
Yeah, because also, I mean, building a company takes a lot of effort and dedication, a lot of time that you could be invested in something else, and you choose to, sorry, the microphone always, and you choose to dedicate it to a startup. So you obviously want to see like, that it pays off, that it brings the economic success.
Absolutely. It is a lot of blood, sweat and tears. At the end of the day, it is like a fair bit sacrificing things, like consciously or unconsciously. In one way or the other, you're putting the company in front of you in your day-to-day life. I'm not saying I'm working till 2 a.m. every day, but like, I am making decisions that in one way or the other prioritize this over my own personal satisfaction at some point. So there is sacrifice that is involved in it. But I mean, on entrepreneurship, I think if you keep viewing it as I'm sacrificing XYZ to get this, then I don't think it really works in the long run, because if you always are keeping score of -1 personal life, +1 startup,
Sure.
You're going to be unhappy as fuck during this entire period, and that is going to translate into your energy, into so many other things that will not last the time that this takes to sort of rocket itself into something successful, whatever that might mean.
Yash, that's. I think we brought up a lot of interesting topic. We came from a point of consciousness of an idea to always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but then we also understood some other more insecure aspect of the need for comparison, which at the same time could also be turned around into a strength.
Yeah.
And other weaknesses, but also ultimately strengths. And I don't want to forget the idea of like hardship, like to make something beautiful and something big, you have to work hard.
Yeah.
And I think that can be inspiring to a lot of people, seeing that, you know, you're a human like everybody else who tries to look at himself, reflect, but then still manage that energy in a way that can benefit you. Because at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be like better financially, socially. I think it's good. But there's always the balance where we just said not to let something like success become my identity.
Of course.
And do you want to add, like, if I don't know, maybe there's somebody listening is like in a similar path, is considering opening something of their own, what would you say, if anything?
Maybe I think so. The bridge, I think, in between me always wanting to start something and me finally starting this was a bridge where, to me, it was not largely a bridge of intent or, let's say, risk-taking ability. I never found those to be blockers. It was more an intellectual bridge, which now I find silly. I need to have the right idea, I need to be at the right place with the right people, and then you kind of try optimizing for this perfect time, perfect space, perfect idea. And one thing that I learned through experience itself when I was working at this VC that was investing in early stage startups, basically incubating them, is that doesn't exist. It's a thought of utopia where you think that you'll find this perfect idea or these perfect people and this is the right time to build it. No, you start seeing people building businesses in front of you and you realize actually there's no correlation in sort of who they are, what exactly they worked in before. how old they are, what their experiences are. And a lot of times entrepreneurship in that early stage of 0 to 1 is just figuring shit out. Like you'll always keep moving and changing and moving and changing. So at some point you just need to take that plunge. And I think this is cliche advice, but it's probably cliche advice for a reason. There is no right time and right idea. I think you just need to take that jump at some point. And then you'll figure it out. You start swimming. You know, the best people who learn to swim when they're thrown into water. You don't learn how to swim before on the board when you're thinking of what to do. So just take that jump.
You just have to start. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect at the beginning. It will never be perfect, but it can still be successful.
Exactly.
And you can still learn from it.
Exactly.
Well, Yash, thank you so much for being here. I had a lot of fun. I think this was a very nice first interview episode. I thank you again. And
thanks for having me. It was great to share more, and I'm so excited to see how the series goes.
Awesome. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.